Hello and welcome to TUC0's Talks. My name is TUC0 Wright and we are in episode 6. I can't believe it's been 6 already. Very excited. So if you're new to the podcast, we've done 5 other episodes with an introduction as well. And last time we talked about office moves and updates and just a couple practical tips about when you should move, making sure you're not first, making sure you're not last, and making sure everyone is taken care of. If you're doing those things, then you are right on track. Today actually is a little bit harder day. Today is about how to give bad news. And unfortunately, I've had to do this a couple times and let people go, and that's been a challenge. When I let people go, I have always considered that a failure on my part. My job as a leader is to develop people. You know, that you're leading people. And when you get to a position where you're unable to lead someone, then it's time to go. And one of the things that I will say is whenever I have let someone go, it's never been me going in and saying, this person has to go. It always starts with someone else having to come to me. And the reason that I do that is I don't necessarily see the day in to day out. And I may only see the negative interactions. But that person may have an incredible relationship with other people that I'm just not aware of. And so as you're walking around and as you're talking to people, you'll figure that out. But when people come in and say, this person's a problem, they need to be let go, or I can't lead this person anymore, I need to leave, then that's when you start going in and having those questions. So just an upfront way that I determine whether we're getting to the point where I've tried to develop, I've had conversations, I brought their supervisor in on the conversations, given them a clear, if this continues, then we have to go down this road. And then usually I'll give them, this is your final warning. And then at that point, it's over. And so, again, it's the worst thing that a leader has to do is to let go of someone and just admit the failure and getting to that point. But sometimes that's where we go. So when you're thinking through, when is it time to let someone go? And I can't let someone go. They've got a family to take care of, or they have family inside the business. And as you're working through that, those are all true points, and you have to consider that. Remember, you're not firing an employee. You are letting a person go, and it has to be a person, and you have to personalize that. I hear the mantra all the time, well, business is business, and this is nothing but business, it's not personal. That's not true. That's something that someone says to themselves to make them feel better. It's always personal because it always has to deal with a person. Now, in the same vein, you have an entire team that you have to take into consideration and take that thought through. And sometimes you are protecting an entire team. And so it's personal because your job is to be responsible for all of them. And they all have families at home as well. And so it's not personal as in you want to go and hammer someone. It is personal because you are taking care of people. And it is people ultimately that you are leading. And so you can think through all those things. The number one thing that drops morale of an organization is when leaders don't address problems. And so if someone is being a problem, if someone is bringing things down or people down or programs down, that's a problem. And if you don't address it as a leader, your morale will just tank. And people will be like, well, I don't want to do this if this person's able to get away with those types of things. Or I'm just so tired of dealing with this person, I'm going to leave. I can't take it anymore. I'm so miserable at my job. And those are all things I have heard, and all those things are some things that I've felt. And there are days where I just don't want to go into the office because I don't want to deal with this person. And that's a problem. And so you as a leader need to be able to address that problem. Okay, so now we have talked about who the problem is and who we have to protect. Now we have to think, how are we going to do this? And you have to think through everything when you work through this. You have to put a person, you just can't let a person go. You have to put a person in the best place possible to make sure that they are taken care of. Even when you let people go, they are still your people. And you have to take care of them. And you have to make sure. And of course, you're going to be hurt. And there are times when people do ridiculous things and you're just frustrated and you just want them gone. But you still have to be the bigger person and take care of them. So think through everything that's going on during these situations. And you want to make sure that you never give bad news alone. And so whether that is bringing people in during the time or allowing them to bring in people, that's important. And I remember someone said, hey, I want to bring in somebody. And they knew that was going to happen. And I was like, absolutely. Yes, because I want you to have a person, because I want you to be able to work with another person. And that is critical to their well-being as well as everything else. The other thing is never give bad news the last day of a work week. So if your work week is a normal Monday through Friday, don't ever give the news on a Friday. They get to leave, they get to go home, and they spend the weekend, and bad things at that point happen. Everything starts going through their mind. Sometimes they live alone, and it is just something that you can count on that they will be stirring it over, and they can make bad decisions or extremely bad decisions. And so protect the people and make sure that you don't have those conversations during that time. Make sure that HR is aware of everything that you're doing. Make sure finance is aware of everything that you're doing. And make sure the supervisor is aware of everything you're doing. And it's not, hey, I'm letting someone go in an hour. Those are emotional decisions if you're telling a person within an hour. This should not be an emotional decision. This is a decision that says we are not able to get to where we need to be. And you should be able to give each of those at least 3 to 4 days to work through all the things that they have. And they're going to bring you problems from it. And they're going to bring things you may not have insight to. And that's exactly why you're bringing them in. And so you're having discussions on how it's working. The supervisor, you need to make sure that the supervisor doesn't give that information away to the person. And that can lead to a lot of legal problems. That can lead to a lot of, especially if you work in an industry that has materials that you don't want leaving with that person, that can be an issue. So make sure that you're having the conversations and making sure that you let people know this is not up for discussion and should not be discussed with the employee. Each of those people will have to go into their systems and make sure that information's not being copied, making sure that databases are not being copied, and making sure that they leave with only their materials. So if it is a work material, you need to make sure that those are collected. I work in education, and so it is standard. I need your badge, I need your keys, I need your laptop, and I'm going to allow you to go and pick up anything in the classroom that is yours. And do you need help doing that? And most of the time, no, I don't need help. Putting a friend with them that can walk with them is a good idea. It de-escalates problems and allows them to have an arm around them as they're working through. It also provides assistance to them, not allowing them to make an emotional mistake as they walk out. And so some people will say, well, I'm protecting my information or my room. And yes, you are. But more so, when people get emotional, they'll make bad mistakes. If they have a friend with them, then they'll be less likely to make that mistake. And that's something you want to protect them, again, from doing. When you are letting someone go, try to do it in person. I have actually let somebody go on the phone, and I had no choice. And we worked through a million different scenarios trying to figure out, how am I going to get this person in here so that I can have the conversation. And it just wasn't happening. And so I needed to do it over the phone. And that was difficult, and I don't ever suggest that. You're not able to take care of the person the way you should, and you need to be able to look the person in the eye and thank them for it. It just is a bad scenario. So all you can do is set yourself up for success, and your success is setting them up for success and to get through there. And the last thing I will tell you is make sure your lawyer is involved. There are things that you just won't ever know and you won't think about. And as you're having those conversations, email your lawyer. Do not pick up the phone and call. Email everything. So you have it written down that you asked the questions, and you have it written down that that is the response you had. That does a couple different things. One, it protects you, which is nice. Two, when the reviews are made on what decisions you are talking through, you're going to have a conversation with your boss. If you are the boss, and then you won't, but 9 times out of 10, you have a boss. And so when you're discussing these things, and when you send your final review of what happened and what you did, and this is how it all transpired, having those emails that you can give them in HR to make sure that they file those, it is critical that you don't seem or appear to be emotional. Those are very well drafted. They ask the right questions. You answer the correct things, and make sure that you understand and that everyone else understands. I really tried everything I could. I just was not able to lead them, and I'm going to go through and do lessons learned on that. And so these are always hard discussions. This is not one of the things you should ever relish. You should be thinking through them emotionally, or take it emotionally, not making emotional decisions, but take it emotionally, because it should hurt when you're doing this. Go. All right, that is all that we have for today on how to give bad news. Hopefully you won't have to do this, but I'm sure as a leader that you will find a time that you're going to have to be able to give those updates, or actually having to let someone go. Well, we are just a couple days away from doing the interviews with fellow leaders and coaches, and I'm very excited. I've talked to a couple people and gotten them on the schedule, and we will get to those points. So until then, I hope y'all have a great week, and this is TUC0's Wright checking off.